Hi, thanks so much for joining in. You're watching Ask Profit on NDTV Profit, and my name is Alex Mathew. This show is geared towards getting you answers to all of your stock-related questions, and to that end, if you've got questions for us, you can send them to us on that number that you see at the bottom of your screen. And in fact, over the course of the next half an hour or so, we'll get them answered by our fundamental and technical experts. Before we get to that, though, let's take a look at where the markets are right now. And we were expecting that there would be cuts, and that has in fact panned out. We have cuts of about 0.6%. If anything, we are not falling as sharply as the US equity markets and several Asian markets. And the cues, therefore, had indicated a worse performance for the Indian equity markets. We're not seeing cuts to that extent. The broader markets as well, they're actually doing quite well in the context of things. You have cuts of about 0.5% or thereabouts for the mid-cap index, and you're actually in the green for the small-cap index, as a result of which the market breadth does not look absolutely terrible. Yes, there are more declines than advances, but it's very close to even Stevens, not too much to speak of there. Let's talk about the contributors in the Nifty 50 then, and let's look at who's moving the needle today. HDFC Bank holding out, but not too much in the way of gains. Among the losers, you have the likes of Infosys, which loses for a second day in a row, and you also have the likes of TCS as well as ICICI Bank. You have among the big losers on the benchmark Wipro, as well as Coal India, ONGC, Hindalco, LTI, Mindtree. And among the key gainers, you have a lot of the oil-related companies, or companies that benefit from lower oil prices, that are gaining ground. The top gainer on the Nifty 50 today is, of course, Asian Paints, with gains of about 2.4%. Now, I spoke about global cues, and that had to do with risk assets. But the other major story globally is the sharp fall in oil prices that you saw overnight. Brent Crude falling by as much as 4%, or in fact more than 4%. NYMEX is currently at 70, but Brent is at about 73.5, and it is quite a substantial fall. The latest trigger is the likelihood, or the possibility of an increase in production on account of a resumption in production in Libya. And that is in the context of an oversupplied market. So you've seen a very sharp drop in oil prices. They've erased all of the gains in 2024, and that's being seen as positive. Let's take a look at which companies stand to benefit. Mahima has this report.
So in terms of how crude prices have fallen, and we've seen that Brent prices are down 15% since July 24. Now, there are several beneficiaries of this falling crude price. Paint companies, of course, because crude is a raw material for them. 30 to 35% of their raw material comprises of crude, and paint companies use crude derivatives. So cost of raw material falling down means good margins for paint companies. Now, Indigo Paints did touch an intraday high of 5% almost on the back of this news. Asian Paints, Kansai, Nerolac, Berger Paints are also did touch. All of these companies did touch an intraday high of roughly 2%. Now, the second sector that could be that is a beneficiary of falling crude prices, aviation. Well, falling crude prices means that aviation turbine fuel will be available at a cheaper rate, and Indigo and SpiceJet could be possible beneficiaries of this. Next is tire. Well, tire industry uses crude derivatives for raw materials like synthetic rubber, chemicals, and carbon black. And this roughly accounts for 30 to 35% again for their raw materials as well. So decline in crude will of course impact and improve their profitability as well as their margins. Some stocks that could benefit from this include Apollo Tyres, JK Tyres, and Seat. Now, lastly, lubricants. Well, they use crude oil derivatives like base oil and additives, and this comprises of 40 to 45% of their total raw materials. So fall in crude price will improve their overall operating margins, and a major beneficiary from the lubricant space will be Gulf Oil. So these are some of the stocks and counters that will benefit from falling crude prices.
All right, thanks so much for rounding that up for us. Let's get our experts in for the day. We've got Saurabh Jain, who's Equity Head Research at SMC Global Securities, as well as Vaishali Parekh, who's Vice President Technical Research at Prabhudas Lilladher. Thank you so much, as always, for taking the time, both of you. I will start with you, Saurabh, just on a view on some of the names that were mentioned by my colleague. What stands out to you, and would you buy oil marketing companies, especially given the kind of run that they've already had?
Hi, good morning, Alex. Thank you for having me on the show. See, you have said rightly, I mean, oil marketing companies are on the show. If you see the companies, oil marketing companies have already gained more than 40, 50, 60% in some cases. See, crude oil has prices have fallen from 90 odd dollar to now 74, 75. It improves the visibility for their marketing margins. And anyway, all the oil marketing companies are enjoying higher refining margins because of higher share of their higher cracks products. So in that case, I feel that yes, lower cost will augur well for the oil marketing companies because it entails lower investment, and the both refining margins and marketing margins outlook has improved quite a lot.
Okay, fair point. It is time to start taking all of the queries, and just a quick reminder, if you're tuning in just now and you missed my earlier statement, the number that you see on your screen, that's where you send your questions to us, and we'll take them over the course of the next 25 minutes or thereabouts. Just a quick update, if you have not written to us before, do tell us your name and where you're tuning in from. The first question we're taking today is from Surendra, and he is writing in from Hyderabad. He's asking about KPI Green. I'm coming to you, Vaishali, on this counter. He's entered at a price of 981. He's holding 30 shares, and so is incurring a very small loss on this trade. What would you suggest that he do?
Well, I think, the stock has been consolidating. So I think if he's holding on, continue holding. But of course, trading has to be done with a stop loss. So I would say 860 should be the level to watch for. If we break 860, then that negates the trend. But till then, I think it is ready for a bounce, and it can go towards 1,000 level. So for now, it is a hold.
Hold is a view on KPI Green. Arun from Kerala is asking about a counter in focus, HAL, Hindustan Aeronautics, and this is on the back of a significant order, and that has to do with the supply of engines for the Sukhoi aircraft that are used by the Air Force. He's bought at levels of 5,096, and he's wondering what the long-term view on this counter is. Relatively elevated levels. The stock is currently trading below that buy price at 4,916, despite the kind of run that it has had. What's the view on the long term, though? Just asking on this, Saurabh, on the fundamentals, would you hold this?
See, while the fundamentals are quite strong for the HAL, they have good order book, and the visibility is quite strong. And after this clearance of the defense order, they will be major beneficiary. But at the same time, all the growth and the profitability opportunities that the company is going to make has well baked into the prices. If you look at the valuations, I guess it is quoting around 15 times to book value. The multiple is quite high. So what I feel is that all the growth projections going forward for the next 2-3 years are already built into the prices. And the gentleman has bought the stock at a very higher prices. I think it makes sense for him not to average it out, but at the same time make horizon for the next 2-3 years to keep it as a long-term investment. So keep on holding on to it. What I feel is if we see corrections in the broader market, then PSU stocks can fall heavily also from here. So that is why I'm asking not to average.
No, don't average. Okay, that's a fair point. But do watch out for. And on that note, let me come to you, Vaishali, on HAL, just to put a stop loss on this because of the kind of run that we're seeing, and maybe a little wobbles, maybe around the corner. So therefore, what level would you watch very closely on the downside?
So yes, so I do agree with Saurabh that yes, we are seeing a very good trend. The long-term trend is also intact, but for near-term, we saw that after making a high, the stock of 5,600, and we saw some consolidation. So I guess 4,400 acts as a very prominent support, which was the low sometime back. So, and from there on, we have only been seeing some consolidation. And now the stock is attempting to show a bounce. So again, it's in a positive trend, but the view gets negated below 4,400. So if 4,400 levels break, then that could damage the trend, and that would be the level to exit.
All right. Lakhan Kumar Bazari is writing in from Port Blair in Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Thanks so much for taking the time, Lakhan, and pleasure having you and getting your question answered on the show. State Bank of India is the counter that he's asking about. He's got 400 shares at a price of 200 rupees. That's quite the attractive price that he's bought at, and it seems like he's bought at quite a while back. He says that he can hold for another 3 years. Sort of, it's already doubled for him, and it's currently at 800. A few people have said that SBI is still attractive at this price. Would you also subscribe to that view?
Yeah, SBI is quite attractive. I mean, quite attractive at this price also, if you have a long-term horizon. But at the same time, if he has bought for 200 rupees and the stock is quoting 4 times, he has already made 4 times money, then what I will suggest him to make a partial profit booking and invest in the utilities. I think utility will be more interesting space to park money for the long term. For example, the hydropower companies like SJV and NHPC. I would suggest him to book at least 30-40% of the profit from the table and invest money in the utilities.
Okay, fair point. I'm coming back to you on BSE, and we've got a viewer from Motihari in Bihar, Sri Kishore Sharma, who's bought at levels of 2,572, and he's looking at holding it for 3 years or thereabouts. He is in the green. The stock is currently trading at 2,750. And it's a decent profit that he's making on this. Saurabh, what's the view on the fundamentals? Would you hold on to this?
Yeah, I mean, the fundamentals are quite okay, but at the same time, you have to keep in mind that the markets were roaring and soaring, and that is the reason we saw the stock exchange stocks and the broker stocks, getting a lot of traction. In case we see some kind of a consolidation or lull, we may see some kind of a correction. If you are here for long term, 3 to 5 years, then there is no problem. But if you are here for short term, then surely it makes sense to make short term profit and get out of it.
Okay, fair point. We spoke about oil marketing companies at the start of the program, and we got a fundamental view. Let's also get a technical view on BPCL, because we've got Sai who's tuning in from Andhra Pradesh, and he's bought 700 shares at a price of 351. The stock is currently trading very close to that mark, 356. What is the view that you would have, Vaishali, for a period of 1 to 2 months?
I would say OMCs are doing well, and now also with the crude falling, I think this should benefit them. So BPCL, the trend is good. 340 acts as a near-term support, and I think this can go towards 400, 420. The same is the view even for HPCL. So I think overall the OMCs should continue to do well from here on.
Okay, fair point. So it's a hold. We've got the next question from Rohan. He's asking about Himadri Chemical, which he's bought at levels of 420. Should he continue holding, or is it time to sell? He's making a decent profit in this. The stock is currently trading at 530. What's the view on this one? And also, if you can talk about the space, because some people have called an end to the troubles and the travails that the space has undergone. Would you also believe in that?
See, it is very difficult to make a comment on the chemical sector because it is a very wide organic, inorganic, pharmaceutical chemicals are there. So many chemical companies are there. With respect to the Himadri Chemical, I would like to say that this company is quite on a strong footing. The operational performance has improved a lot. So in case you want to invest it for the long term, keep your investment on hold.
Keep it on hold. That's the view on Himadri Chemicals. IDFC is what we're talking about next. And, so this is IDFC Limited, which is quite an interesting question. We've got a viewer, Sanchit, who's bought at levels of 75.69, and he's got 750 shares. What's the view on this one, Vaishali?
So I think IDFC First and IDFC Limited both have been laggards. They really have not participated. So let's wait and watch. The range for now comes to 108. I'm talking about IDFC Limited, 108 to 120. Only if we sustain above 120, I think there is a formation of a trend going towards 120 and higher. So till then, there's nothing really much. Only consolation, I would say, it's in the process of a higher bottom, and that could show some strength, but that was only above 118.
You were also talking about IDFC First. Could you also give us a view on that? By the way, the first question on IDFC was from Sibi. Sanchit was asking about IDFC First. What's the view on IDFC First, Vaishali?
So this also nothing really happened. But if I'm looking at the weekly chart, the stock right from 100 has been just falling off. And I think right now it is at a cluster of support levels. So I guess 70 should be the final support. And if we see a pickup coming above 76, 78, maybe we can see an upside to follow soon.
Okay, short and long-term view on Vodafone Ideas being sought. We've got Karthik from Hyderabad that has bought a very substantial amount, 1 lakh shares, and he's making a profit of 1 lakh rupees, apologies. The stock was bought at levels of 13.95 rupees per share. It's currently trading about a rupee higher. What's the view, Saurabh? There has been an increase in tariffs, as a result of which there is an expectation that ARPU will improve. What are the long-term prospects looking like?
See, a bit of risky kind of an investment he has made in a single stock, if I can say so. See, if you look at the balance sheet is quite in bad shape. The company has got leased, they have, lost lot number of subscribers. They have leased ARPUs in the industry, and because of the price hike, the recent ARPUs hike, surely they'll be maybe they'll be came up to the EBITDA positive level. But I think still the story is very far away for them. I mean, a lot of money is to be paid back. So in my opinion, I think you can get 5% positive or you can go 5% negative, but it is a kind of a risky investment. I would suggest him to come out of this stock and better invest in Bharti Airtel.
Okay, all right. And what better time to take that decision when you are in the green and making profits? Hindustan Zinc is a counter that Gautam has bought at a price of 504. He's got 150 shares. He's asking whether he should hold or sell at this juncture. He's in a loss. It's not a very substantial loss, though. Vaishali, on the charts, how does it look?
So actually, Hindustan Zinc also currently, I would say that yes, it has corrected right from the recent high of 730, and now it is just consolidating at 400 levels. So the recent low what we saw was 420, and right now it's again in the process of maybe making a double bottom. I think the downside is pretty much restricted. So if time is not the problem, then I think hold on, because one can expect a bounce from there.
Okay, hold on is a view on Hindustan Zinc. Watch the underlying as well. All right, let's talk about Indian Energy Exchange. And the question is from Dhruvraj Patil. He's asking whether this is the right time to enter the counter for a period of 3 years. Saurabh, there were a few question marks about regulatory issues and pricing of power. Is that behind? Would you buy at this juncture for a period of 3 years?
I think, Alex, apart from the two, the monopoly is also being challenged in the past. And on the valuation side, it looks still pricey to me. So I think if he has got an investment horizon of next 2-3 years, then probably he should wait for corrections in the market and probably buy stocks in a staggered manner.
Okay. All right. So avoid for now is a view on IEX. Morpen Laboratories is the next counter that we're talking about. We've got Ravi, who has bought 500 shares at 40 rupees per share. And I'm trying to find the current market price. It's currently at 87.9. So he's making a decent profit at this juncture. He's asking what the potential target would be for a period of 3 years. Can you look that far, Vaishali? Or at least for the long term, what are the kind of levels that you would look at?
Yes, so I'll straight away come on the monthly chart, because if he's looking at a 3-year horizon, on a monthly chart also right from 75, there is a breakout. So I think first target that one can expect is around 100, 120 would be the next. So keeping 3-year horizon and not to miss the in-between whipsaws, I would say keep a range of 75 to 150.
All right. Nestle is the next counter that we're talking about. And Ravindran from Bengaluru is asking, he's bought, now I'm looking at it, and he's bought, I think on the 23rd, if I'm not mistaken, he's bought 24 shares over the course of 6 months with an average price of 2,459. He's asking whether he can buy more at the current price. He's expecting an appreciation of 20% in 1 year. Purely based on the fundamentals, Saurabh, how likely is a 20% gain in Nestle based on the kind of question marks that you've seen about consumption? Would you bet on that?
See, there has been question marks on the consumption side, and also the cocoa price have seen a steep run up, impacting all the companies which are making chocolates also. On the valuation side, the company have already always traded at a premium, but right now it is quoting at 72 times to book value. While FMCG space is looking interesting to me, it is very hard to say whether he'll be able to make 20% kind of a gain in the Nestle. One stocks that attracts to me is Heritage Foods. It's a South Indian based dairy milk and other edible things provider. I think the valuations are also interesting, and in the long term he can make a lot of money. So I would advise him Heritage Foods in the FMCG space.
All right, Heritage Foods instead of Nestle. Would you ask him to switch out of Nestle though?
I think he can put his investment on hold, and rest of the money where he wants to invest. Sure. That's it for that.
Okay, fair point. All right, incremental investments in Heritage Foods instead. Janaki from Telangana is asking about Gabriel India, which was bought at levels of 153. Points out that it is at 538, in fact, and he's making a healthy profit. Wants to know what to do with it. What are the prospects from this point on based on the charts, Vaishali? Should he book some profits right now?
I don't think so. I think continue holding with the trading stop loss because the trend is gradually going higher. So if there is good level of profit, 500 should be the stop loss. And look for a target of 580 to 590. That is the level that I think probably partial profit booking can be done.
All right. Anvesh from Andhra Pradesh has bought Bajaj Finance at a price of 6,606 rupees per share. The stock is currently trading above that price at 7,277. Of course, everyone's watching for the Bajaj Housing IPO. Some of those proceeds are going to go to Bajaj Finance as well. But you had Sanjeev Bajaj, Saurabh, talking just yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, and speaking about the fact that they're very happy, despite the fact that they don't have a banking license and they expect to grow quite in a quite healthy manner. Would you suggest holding for the long term?
I think in the last few years, the stock has clearly disappointed. There's a lot of competition in the market. First, they were dealing with their balance sheet. Now, when they have come with the growth, I think the numbers are not that interesting for the markets. On the valuation side, it is less expensive than earlier it used to be. But I find it is very difficult to make money in the Bajaj Finance. The recent run-up we have got because of the issue that is coming up. And the money which is going to come in the Bajaj Finance is actually now priced in the prices perfectly. So I would suggest him to take money off the table and instead invest money in the banking stock like ICICI Bank.
Okay, I'm going to try and get a view. RK Swami is the name of the counter. It's currently got a market capitalization of 1,200 crore rupees. We've got Anuj Dhamija, who's writing in from Saket, who's bought at levels of 270. The stock is currently at 237.6. Vaishali, if you can get a hold of this counter, what kind of advice would you give for the short term?
For the short term, I think the trend is still down, but all the same, it's in the oversold zone. So we can expect a bounce, exit and bounce.
On a bounce. All right, Kamath from Bengaluru is joining in. He's asking a question specifically to you, Saurabh. And the counter that he's talking about is Vedant Fashions. For a period of 3 years, he's bought 500 shares at a price of 1,015 rupees per share. He's in the green right now. He's wondering what the prospects are based on the fundamentals. What is your view?
Well, the fundamentals are quite good and the company is quite solid, but at the same time, I think the valuation is not on the comforting side. So I would suggest him to book partial profits on the table and wait for the corrections in the market to buy again and keep it for longer.
Okay, fair point. All right, we've got a question coming in from Ujwal, and Ujwal is asking about Asian Paints. He's holding 15 shares at a price of 3,200. As I mentioned at the start today, it is the top performer on the Nifty 50 today and gaining about 2.4% purely on the back of the decline in crude oil prices, which is seen as a benefit because it is a major input. Saurabh, on the fundamentals, there has been quite a bit spoken about Asian Paints, particularly because of the challenge that is being posed by smaller rivals, about pricing pressure, about consumption, all of those aspects coming into play, particularly pricing. What is the strategy that you would employ with Asian Paints? Would you buy on dips? Would you hold on if you've invested?
See, Alex, in the last 1 year, we haven't recommended any paint stocks because of the obvious reasons that everybody know. There is a lot of competition, and companies like Asian Paints are finding it difficult to make a success on their premium product side. And above all, the Birla's making entry into this segment will make things worse for them. It is the cut in the crude oil prices which are making which are giving an opportunity to the investors to exit at a higher price. So I take these gains to make an exit from the paint companies. So I'll suggest better to exit.
Better to exit. Geeta has got this next question, and she's looking for a 3-year outlook on Suzlon. Is it still good to consider this? And we get quite a few questions on this because it's been a multi-bagger. Vaishali, would you buy at the current juncture for 3 years though?
I would think so, because the trend has become so strong. I'm looking at all the charts of all periodicities. There is a one-way move coming up. So I would say a better strategy would be to accumulate. We've seen that after making a high of 84, it's come to 73. So I guess the prominent support lies at around 68 to 65 levels. So from here on, accumulate to these support levels. And from there on, we can see a rebounds coming in, new round of momentum setting in. And perhaps when I'm looking at the longer period horizon, this can go towards 85 to 100 levels. Okay. So yes, I would accumulate. That would be the better strategy.
And of course, fundamental analysts have cautioned about valuations currently. The technical indicators are very positive, but do bear that in mind as well. The run-up has been very sharp. That brings us to the end of this particular edition of Ask Profit. Vaishali as well as Saurabh, thank you so much for taking the time, for speaking to us and for answering all the questions that you did answer. And hopefully, viewers, we've managed to cover a lot of bases for you. In case we didn't get your question answered, we'll be back tomorrow to take more of them. In the meanwhile, stay tuned. Lots more coming up on NDTV Profit.